This is just a quickie that I wanted to talk about with names and why people in Maya are so crazy about their names. Because everything in Maya is run off of names. If you look at an ASCII file when you open it up, it'll actually be, do this command to this named object. It uses names in there. It doesn't use variables. That's pretty common, I think, with all software. But since ASCII files and MEL is readable, you can actually see it in action. And incidentally, everything in Maya is a name. So if I go here and create like a cylinder and then put it in a layer, and I name that layer something like tube, and like, you know what? I want to name, save it. I want to name my cylinder tube. So I'm going to try and name it tube, and you see it names it tube 1. And you're like, no, 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 no. I want it to be named tube, and it keeps adding a 1 on the end. You're like, what the deal? And basically the reason that is because the layer is treated as an object in Maya as well. So for layers, I'm always going to name them something like blah, 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 and then put layer on the end. So now I can actually go in here and name my tube what I wanted to name it. So just be aware of that. So everything in Maya has a name. So if you name a camera, it's always good to put an underscore camera on the end or something like that. Or just keep, make sure you have unique names and just watch out for that. The reason for this, that I'm telling you about this, is because often when you have clashing names, it can actually affect things and mess things up. So a lot of scripts that are written third party for Maya don't necessarily look for full path names. And so let's say, for instance, I create a curve here and I group it and then I duplicate it. You'll notice that both my curves have the exact same name. If I show these shapes, both the shapes have the exact same name. And most things, let's take this and just move it apart so I can see them. If I do an ls-sl on that, it'll give me back the full path name, which is group 1 pipe curve 1. That way I know what my object is explicitly in the scene. That's not always going to be the case. Not every tool does that. Not every third-party script does that. Not every plugin does that, and it can get things confusing. Also, if you were doing any kind of scripting, it just adds a little more headache to you because you have to make sure you're, what is my object? Oh, I want just this object name. Okay, great. Now I've got to go and get the last part after the pipe, which isn't that big a deal. These things aren't big of a deal, but they're just adding to what you're doing. Incidentally, if you go into your select by name, it will select both objects. Kind of weird, not necessarily something you want to have happen. It used to just error out if there were duplicates. Or if I type in select curve, curve 1, you notice it says, I'll bring that over so you can see it. Make it bigger, scroll it down. So more than one object that matches curve 1. But if I go in and get that full path name, and say select that, that's going to work. Whoops, let me just see how that works. Great. So anyway, you don't want to be careful of those duplicate names. Now by default, if you do edit duplicate, there are no options for it. There used to be options up until like Maya 2015, and then they got rid of the options. And if you can't tell, I'm still bitter about that because why not have options? I don't know. If you look at your grouping, see, this is not necessarily something you want to have happen, right? You don't want to have that second object have the same name. So if I go into my duplicate special, these are actually all the options of the original duplicate plus some extra ones if you want to do like multi duplication and stuff like that. And there's a really important flag at the bottom here, which is assign unique name to children node. And that's the one that's going to actually go in there and rename those children's of your selected object so that they don't clash with each other. So now you notice if I go here and do an ls-sl on that, it gives me just the curve name because it knows there aren't other objects in the scene with that same exact name. Sometimes you do want to have it if you're doing something where you, I don't know, most often you don't, but there are times when you do want it. And incidentally, even in Maya, this can get screwed up. So I'm just going to do a regular duplicate and move that down. And as we can see, we have matching shape node names, which is bad. And I'm going to use that. If you control click, you get a tool for selecting different parts of curves. And it's really great. So you can say, oh, give me LastCV. And wait, it didn't work. So let me show you what it's supposed to do, and then I'll show you why it's broken. So if I say to LastCV, it gives me the LastCV in the object, which is pretty cool, right? I can select anywhere on the curve and say to first CV and get the first CV, which is awesome. Now I can grab that. I can say 2 CVs. I'll give you all of your CVs. And I can say, whoops, where is it? Cluster, which I generally don't do all that often. Show it all, but it will put a cluster on every single CV on your curve, which is kind of handy. But now, oops, wrong button. But now, if I do a regular old duplicate in Maya, and I have 2 objects in the scene with the same shape node name, and I try and use those tools, it doesn't know what to do. And it breaks. And this is what you'll see on, yeah. So that's the really bad one. All right, let me show you this. So 2 CVs doesn't know what to do, to LastCV doesn't know what to do, and cluster doesn't know what to do. And the really scary one is if I do to first CV, I actually get both my objects, both my curves at the same time, which is definitely something you don't want. It looks like it's screwing some other stuff up too. So just be really careful about those node names and make sure you make them right. Now, a long time ago, I went in and changed my duplicate by hand because I know how to do that, and I'll show you how to do that. I'm going to open up. So to find the script that you want to be in Mel, and you do what is perform duplicate. Oops. And I had a whole bunch of other code in there that I didn't want. Cool. And it'll tell you exactly where that command is coming from. And if I do a Control E, I'm not going to show you my thing, but if I do a Control E and drop it into an Explorer, it'll open up that script in your text editor of choice. This is context. I've been using it for years. It's got a good Mel highlighter. It's extremely simple. It's free. I've tried moving to Sublime, but Sublime does some weird things I don't really like, and I find PyCharm from Mel is just a little over the top. Anyway, if you go down, we can find this right here, which is rename child, and we want to change that to rename child to be 1. Save that, close this. I want to then drop that back into Maya so it sources it. And now if I do a regular old duplicate, I now have 2 separate objects like I want them to be. You can understand why that would be kind of difficult or dangerous. And it's true of everything you use. So if you create joints, right, and I'm going to use the old duplicate because I fixed the real duplicate. Look at these joint names. So these joints below are named the same as the joints above. I don't think you'd ever want that. I just don't. Granted, you should always go in and use something like comment rename or something like that to rename your joints. But, why not start off on a good foot? Or spell things wrong. Just helpful. And then, so one of the things I discovered is that certain tools will cause errors depending on how you've used them. So I have a little script here that I've written and I use all the time called MakeCurve, and it creates a curve from selected objects, points, whatever, it doesn't matter. But one of the things I have to fix on it that I haven't fixed yet is that it'll create a curve shape that does not have the same name as the curve that it created. Shouldn't be an issue with anything, except for apparently it is. So I'm going to bring in a cylinder here. Slide that over. Give it some divisions. Nope. Yep. Okay. And we'll freeze it. Delete its history, because why not? Okay. And we use the wire tool. So the wire tool, for whatever reason, and if you've used it, you know that when you create a wire tool, it creates a base wire for you, so that it basically is the difference between the two to figure out what's going on. Nothing new there. So I'm going to grab this curve and move it. Oh wait, I have to make the default drop-off distance a lot bigger. I'm going to select this and move it. Great, looks awesome. And awesome. A lot of times when I'm using this and testing it, I'll be like, just grab it. Okay, give me the first CV. Wait, what? Okay, give me the last CV. Wait, give me, what the hell? Strangely, the first CV works. If you remember from earlier, for some reason that still works. But, it's not moving anything. And I'm like, wait a minute. what is happening? Okay, so this is that curve thing again. So for some reason, when you create the wire deformer, it names the new curve shape the exact same thing as the original curve shape. It doesn't remember to change it. Why? I don't know. I guess it's a bug. So I'm going to go here and just rename those things real quick with a tool that I have. And now I'm going to go in here and grab this first curve and grab anywhere on it and say, give me the first CV. Whoops, not all CVs, but to first CV. It works as expected. So long story short, name everything. Make sure your shape nodes match your DAG nodes. Lots of tools out there that'll do that. I can make one available. I have it built into my tool here to create curves and stuff like that, curve colors. Definitely keep an eye on those curves and watch what your errors are, because sometimes you look at it, you can figure out why something has an error and how to fix it. All right, hope that was helpful.